Ireland has a long history of being settled by different groups and countries during several time periods. One of the earliest settlers were hunter-gatherers, followed by Celtic tribes who came from the European continent. These tribes influenced Ireland, and one of the first official Irish languages comes from the Celtic language. After the Celtic came St. Patrick, a patron who introduced Christianity. The Vikings were the next group who raided Ireland but soon settled into the area, and they also helped found Dublin, the capital of Ireland. Next came Norman mercenaries from England, but later on they adopted Irish culture, learned the language, and married into Irish families. In the 16th century, King Henry VIII called himself the King of Ireland, built English settlements, and tried to force Protestantism on the Catholic people. England eventually took over, and many Catholics were discriminated against with certain laws called penal laws. These penal laws prevented them from holding public office, teaching, restricting them from owning property and land, and many more. Ireland became part of UK. There were several movements for Ireland to become independent. After a war of independence, a treaty called the Anglo-Irish Treaty was signed, which divided Ireland into the independent Irish Free State and Northern Ireland, which remained with the UK. The origin. The language that the Irish speak is Irish Gaelic. This language is related to Scottish Gaelic, but English is mostly spoken in Ireland. Ireland is mostly a Catholic country, and Roman Catholics make up about 95% of Ireland's population. St. Patrick, who is the patron saint of Ireland, is honored because he introduced Christianity to the Irish people. St. Patrick was born in 387 AD and died in 461 AD. The diffusion of the culture. Many Irish people emigrated to North America, especially the United States during the Great Famine, which was from 1845 to 1852. Many people also continued to emigrate many years after the famine. This was a relocation diffusion for the Irish. The Irish settled mainly in the Northeast and in some cities such as Chicago, New Orleans, and San Francisco. The Irish Catholics faced discrimination in society, and there were many stereotypes that grew against them. They eventually fit in with society as they came in such large numbers. Most of them could speak English, and their culture was pretty similar to the American culture. Other countries the Irish migrated to were Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Reasons for emigrating were due to the potato famine, the job opportunities in these countries, and independence.
One of the most prominent cultural elements of the Irish is their style of architecture. As most folk cultures, they tend to stick with materials that are readily available locally and that seem to be relatively durable. In Ireland, most folk houses are made with tempered clay or stone. Tempered clay houses are more prevalent in southeastern portions of Ireland because the climate in the region allows for an abundance of clay and pliable mud. The roofs of these houses tend to be thatched because of the heavy amount of annual rainfall they receive. The thatched roof allows for the water to just slide off rather than seep into the house. The houses also have a hearth in the center, which is characterized by a fireplace and is typically where most of the cooking happens. The hearth has evolved to become more than a kitchen. It is now a place where people gather to tell stories and have conversations with each other. Another very important element is the food. The food is very similar to that of the English, which makes sense because the English had control of much of Ireland until the 1920s. The Irish, like the English, have 4 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, tea, and dinner. Irish food is also similar to various other Northern European cuisines in the sense that there is a lot of bread and meat. Environmental interaction and influence. The general landscape of Ireland varies throughout the country. The west is typically wetter than the east, and thus there is a higher number of potato farms in the west. The potato is a very important part of Irish cuisine. This is in part because of the size of Irish families back in the old ages. When the potato crop was introduced to the Irish, it proved to be a crop that could provide enough yield with relatively minimal effort. Thus, the potato played an important role in shifting the Irish way of life from one of endless work to one of leisure time to focus on other more enriching activities. Staying on the topic of vegetation, the soil composition of Ireland is conducive to the growth of grass and other such non-arable crops. This plenitude of grass allows for livestock farming. One of the most important livestock in Ireland is the horse. Irish horses are famous all over the world for their excellent movement and jumping ability. Hence, the Irish culture fosters a number of horse races throughout the year, and this serves as a centripetal force in bringing the Irish community together. Another important influence is their coastal regions. Ireland, being an island, has a very long coastline, and thus seafood tends to be an important part of their cuisine. This can be seen in their oyster eating festival that is held every year and is open to international participants. The oyster festival is key in their tourism industry because it attracts multitudes of people from all over the world who want to see this incredible one-of-a-kind event. Irish taboos. Horse meat is considered an atrocity and is completely shunned by the Irish. This taboo has more of a sentimental value than a religious or social one, because the Irish tend to see horses as pets and companions rather than food. The origin can also be traced back to the Celts, who were a major part of Irish history. The Celts revered the horse for its unique capabilities in warfare and transportation. Consequently, we could say that this taboo is derived from both an emotional and historical source. Another social taboo among the Irish is the peace sign. Public display of the peace sign is looked down upon by society. The peace sign in Ireland is equivalent to giving someone the middle finger in America. According to an old legend in Ireland, and the UK, during the Hundred Years' War, the French were in the habit of cutting off the fingers of the English and Welsh soldiers whom they had captured, and after they had executed them, the French, apparently, stuck out their index and middle fingers to show the English and Welsh that they still had their fingers. This was seen as an act of defiance and disrespect towards the dead English and Welsh soldiers.
Irish folk culture examples. One example is the bodhrán, which is an English frame drum made of goatskin that is held by hand and played with a wooden piece called tipper. These drums are played to create the unique beat of the Irish music, often played during their social gatherings. One of their social gatherings is Sailid, which involves dancing to the folk music. The dance involves many people or couples in close contact with each other and repetitive patterns. Oftentimes, Sailid tell stories of events that occurred in their history. Popular Sailids include the Wall of Limerick, which describes the violent establishment of the city Limerick, and Siege of Ennis, about an attack of a city in County Clare. This reflects the history of Ireland, which was filled with raiding and siege by Celtic, Viking, Nordic, and English powers. There are several Irish mythologies about fictional characters called Finn McCool. The character was raised by Leith, a woman warrior, after his father died from battle, and his mother felt that it would be best if he could be taught to be a warrior by Leith. One of the stories is Finn's childhood, called the Salmon of Knowledge. Finn was a curious boy who asked too many questions that the knowledgeable poet could not answer his questions anymore. Frustrated, the boy catches a salmon of knowledge, which makes the person who eats it the wisest person in Ireland. The fact that Finn's father died in battle and Finn himself was raised by a warrior suggests the importance of warriors that defended the land against invaders throughout history. Irish popular culture. The traditionally Irish holiday of St. Patrick's Day is celebrated internationally as seen in the image of St. Patrick's Day Parade in Denver, Colorado. St. Patrick was a missionary from Britain that established a church in Ireland and died on March 17, 461 AD. He was not honored until the mythology spread. One myth says that St. Patrick drove off all the snakes out of Ireland. This myth symbolizes paganism, or the expulsion of religions other than Christianity. Eventually, St. Patrick's Day became a celebration of Irish Catholic Christian pride and nationality, where people wore the color green associated with the shamrock, said to have been used by St. Patrick's to explain the Holy Trinity. Nowadays, America celebrates St. Patrick's Day more extravagantly than Ireland, because the history of the large Irish immigration. In fact, the first St. Patrick's Day parade was held by Irish immigrants in New York. Whiskey is a type of hard alcohol from Ireland that is produced around the world. The Irish value the social atmosphere of their pubs, and drinking whiskey is an important important part of their culture. Irish hurling is a sport that originated in Ireland well before British colonization during the Gaelic rule. The sport involves 15 players on a 137-meter field, and the rules are much like handball, except using a wooden stick to obtain ownership of the ball. The sport is very popular within Ireland, and it is gaining popularity around the world. Lastly, the rock bands like U2 and Aslan play huge roles in international popular rock music and is famous for having its origins in Ireland.